Good evening and welcome to the 360 Degrees live show on Transcontinental Times. We have all admired individuals who make it against all odds. And often these are people who are not born in what would be called privileged society, not born in a big town, don't come from a set of parents who are necessarily convent educated or already doing jobs that they aspire for. Yet, against all odds, they journey through life, rising higher, 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 till the world notices them and recognizes them as a success story. The problem is, by the time come to know of them, and media or other channels highlight them to the common public, they have already made it big. The journey then gets lost in the romanticized version of the story. As it gets embellished with each repetitive interview after the other, the journey starts sounding more and more like a movie and less like a struggle that the person would have really gone through. Hindi cinema or Bollywood often romanticizes this as somebody from a small town of Bihar, UP, Orissa, you name it, who comes and falls in love with this very modern girl and struggles through, highlighting each idiosyncrasy, each small town habit as something cute and nice to applaud. Life's not like that, really. Tonight, we are meeting a guest who comes from one of the smallest towns or smaller towns of Bihar. I wouldn't even call it a tier 1, let alone a tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3 town. And he has battled all odds and has just started on this journey, which I believe in 5, 10, 20 years will be one of the celebrated ones from the state of Bihar. Please join me in welcoming Nikendra Singh.
Hi, good evening, Nalin, and to all the viewers of Transcontinental Times. So, thank you for a very nice introduction, Nalin, and it's really I'm really privileged actually to be here on this platform and sharing some of my stories over here, and I'm really looking forward to having a great chat here with you. Thank you so much, Nalin, for the introduction.
Thank you for coming to the show, but I must start with what must be a cliched question. Could you just walk us through your journey from where you started, your education, and I will try to chime in between to unravel some nuggets for our viewers. Talk to us about from where you started and where you are now.
So basically, I was born in a very small village called Dala, it's namely, and from Baka districts. It is one of the most underdeveloped districts of our India. So which is situated in our southeast part of Bihar. And so initially my education started from the government school of Bihar itself. So I was there for a couple of years, and then a new school was being set up in my town actually, which is a main town of Baka, which is around 5 to 6 kilometers from my village. So because we came from a poor background, so we did not had enough, we were not economically sound actually, so that we could study in those schools. Because my grandfather was a freedom fighter, so my grandmother used to get pension from government of India. So using that money actually, so my father made me admit to that school, and with all those monies and from here and there, so I studied in that school. I completed my 10th from there and secured 92% marks from there. And then again, I went to Delhi Public School, Ranchi. There I did my +2. And after that, I joined Haldia Institute of Technology, West Bengal, and I studied my BTech in computer science. And after that, I was, college placed in one of reputed MNCs. And then I started my IT career from there. And currently, I'm a 6-year-old IT professional working for a startup.
So the first school that you went to where you completed your 10th before you moved to DPS Ranchi, was that a big change? Was language a factor? Did you move from state board to some central board or something like that?
Yes, so like I told you, I was there, at a Bihar school where the medium was absolutely Hindi. And when I went there, because see, we were the first batch of our school. Actually, the school had just began actually, so we were the senior most at all levels of the class, and language was a huge barrier. But because we were the first batch, the school had just started, so there was some liberty actually to our first batch. But slowly, we managed actually, and yes, and we all came up with flying colors. But language
And
was a barrier, absolutely.
and what was the challenge, or what was the thought process of moving from there into computer science? Because it's not a first subject of choice for somebody who comes from Bihar. You should have been giving UPSC exams, but that's a cliched view, right? And that's a normal view. Why computer science?
I did not. It came to me, by chance. I was very scared with computers. Even in class 10th, there were so many optional subjects, one of the optional subjects. So I chose economics, with all my friends took computer science, but I was too scared to computers. So I took economics. And again, when I went into class 12, so I had an option to take computer science. But because I was too scared with coding and all those computer backgrounds, so there also, I opted for some other subjects, economic itself. But when I went there, I gave an exam because I was looking for a mechanical background. But when I went for counseling, so there was no seats left for this mechanical. So I had to take up that computer science. So that came to me by chance, actually. Yeah.
So what was doing engineering from the background you came and the progression you went through, was it tough initially?
I wouldn't say tough actually, because see, from the beginning onwards, as soon as I passed my class 10, so there were no options. So although geography has always been my favorite subject, and still now I used to study a lot of subjects from here and there of geography. But because of the societal influence, and there's a common a thought that flows in the society that if you are a good student, or if you want to do something very good, you'll always have to take up science. So that influence was there with me as well. So I had to take up science. So after I did my plus two, actually, then again there were so many options with me. But because of that influence, again, I couldn't go up with commerce or some arts background. So there was only one option left for me actually, that was engineering. So there again, I would say actually it was by chance, but I did not have much path to take actually. There was just one for me. Although, but if my family could have been a much economically sounder family, I would have definitely followed my passion, which was geography, and I'd have done something in that field itself.
Okay, that's interesting. So, after doing your computer science, you moved on to one of the largest and most celebrated IT companies of India and spent few years there. Uh, and I know, having spoken to you earlier, that you lived in Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore, or Mysore. Was it a bit of a culture shock? I mean, most of these places are far removed from the reality of where you grew up and where you studied.
I absolutely, if you compare, the place from where I came from, where I was brought up and studied for the first at least 10 to 15 years of my life, there's a huge difference actually, and the difference is so huge in terms of everything that you can't even compare. We could not even imagine, being in a village of remote area from Bihar, and if someone could take me to that, we cannot imagine actually, to be very frankly. But once we go into the colleges, I mean, we are exposed to that, because I mean, it's from here and there, seniors nowadays, from social media. So from that perspective, know that there was not a very huge change, but looking from a village point of view, yes, that's a huge change actually.
So now, when you meet people in your village or meet people who grew up with you, and obviously some of them must still be there, some of them must have gone on to do other things. But the next generation, people who are 10 years younger, etc., who come up to you for advice, what do you tell them? What to expect and how to, make their dreams come true?
See, one thing, see, I'd mostly, so focus on this Bihar perspective. See, one thing we have to accept is most of the people in Bihar, actually, especially in village, we are still a poor background. We have still come from very poor family, and to go to study in a big private schools and engineering, it takes a lot of things, not just money actually. Because from my village, I mean, I'm the first student actually from the engineering background who have stayed in the village and done something engineering and doing a private job or engineering job from my village. So to advise them actually, because it's the mentality of the common people, because they are poor, they have an entirely different mentality. And if you're a female child, it's very tough, because still in Bihar, for a female child to go out 10 kilometers and to study in in private schools, it's a dream actually for all them. So all that I could advise. So whatever they are doing actually, they should at least focus on what they are doing. And yes, there are some life challenges, economically and this societal influence. But if you're really focusing on studies and all those things you are doing, you can make up slowly here and there. But yes, but because we all are economically very challenging at times for most of the students actually, especially in villages, studying in very good schools, colleges, it's not possible actually. It has to come from somewhere from the top actually, not from the bottom always.
So, if this is the situation now, I assume that when you were studying 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, it must have been a lot worse. So, what was that thing that in you that made you different and break out of that mold? Because I'm sure many would have ridiculed you, or many would have ridiculed your parents for sending you off to study computer science and things like that. What was it? What drove you?
See, the basic things, see, like I told you, we were not, coming from a well-to-do family. We were coming from a lower background, or you can call from a poor family from Bihar. So if I had not done actually, if I have not studied, so I had nothing to do actually. I mean, to because I had nothing to do, not even a business which do come actually through inheritance or some other means. I had nothing to do actually. So all that I had is to study and find a job and do something on my own. Otherwise, I would be of nowhere. So that was always there in my mind, that if I don't do anything, I'll be of nowhere. Actually, all that I have to do is open some pawn shop that we call in villages. Just if you don't study, you will have to open a pawn shop and sit all through your life. So that's actually true as well, apart from being a joke. So that was always there in my mind. And apart from that, see, my parents, like I told you, we were all basically, I mean, Bihar villages are very poor. So I had to do something for them as well, because they have all struggled all throughout life, their life. See, all their earnings in terms of everything they have invested in me. And if I don't return anything to them, it will not be, I mean, anyways a good actually. So that these two things were there, that always drove me to do something at least.
That it's interesting you say that, because people who have invested not only their life savings but their whole energy,
Yes,
hopes, aspirations into building one
absolutely.
life. Of course, you did the hard work of actually executing it, but how do you actually give back? It's not just about money, right? What do you think
Yes.
gives them satisfaction?
See, there's so many aspects to it, and one aspect is you have to give them a better life if you're doing something good. In all the ways, it might be economically, it might be a good life standards. I mean, you have to give them support actually. And I'll tell you, there are so many people in Bihar village who haven't seen actually outside a district. Forget about going and traveling outside state. There are people, and there are so many of them, millions of them, who have not seen a different district actually all their life. What they have done is stayed in their homes, managing all their small stuffs and just investing them in their sons or in daughters life. So if I have to give them one thing apart from being financially giving them a good life, so also make them explore so many places. I mean, and yes, these are some of the things. Apart from that, you can show them how by being a very good son actually give them time and all those things.
So as we were speaking before the show, you told me that you have moved on from the multinational IT company job
Yes.
to working for a startup.
Yes.
Uh, how did your parents take to that, or what made you take a decision that, on the face of it, is riskier? Right? I would
Yes.
think somebody who gets to that stage, multinational, would think, "Oh, I made it. Now I can go through life in this company." Why this risk again? What is it going through your mind?
Okay, so as far as taking decision is concerned in terms of my career, my life, and especially this IT background. So although I discuss with my parents, but the only sentence they would say is, "You have this is your life. Now you have to take decision. Don't ask me. I'll support you in all the ways possible, but it's you who have to take all the decisions." So where as far as decision is concerned, it's only me actually. I mean, there's no influence from anybody. And the reason I moved is, see, one thing which I'll accept openly actually. Money is one of the things that is, a true fact actually, which some people might not agree. That was one thing. Apart from that, the learning actually, I wouldn't say that multinational companies don't have learning. Yes, they have, but the rate at which things come to you actually through which you learn. It's not just that your textbooks, all this, or by gathering information you learn, but the real learning you do is by experience when you do some work. So that experience in larger companies mostly come late actually. The pace is quite slow, but when you move to a small companies, that pace is higher. So you learn actually at a much higher pace what you learn in multinational companies. Second thing is that the visibility in smaller companies is much more if you are a genuine good employee. In multinational companies, but because there are so many employees working simultaneously at the same ladder, so what happens is the visibility that should be there actually is quite less, when it comes to the startup. So that visibility is there. Apart from that, yes, I had something of my own also. So when I go to smaller companies, so everything actually you can see directly actually what all things is happening, starting from a business level to the lowest level actually, from a basic developer. Everything you can see it very clearly, which is not possible in higher organization because there are so many employees and so many people working above you and below you. So because I had a aim actually, which is again, creating a startup, not now after a few years. So I thought, I should join this startup company to fulfill my dreams along with some other reasons that I just told you.
No, I get that. In a large company, you tend to go and fit into a slot. You learn a
Yes.
lot of things about process, control, governance, hierarchy, but you never actually deal with the customer often,
Correct.
right? Here, you can see the end-to-end cycle from start to finish, and it comes with a certain degree of pressure because everything is live and everything is so vibrant. What you are talking about as something you sought out because of your own desire to maybe have a startup of your own one day, many people get scared of that and they want to stay away and hide in a large corporate. No right or wrong answer, but I completely relate to what you're saying. I want to pick on another
Absolutely.
point. Today when speaking with you, you come across as, confident, poised, and mature beyond your years. You were not always like this. I mean, when you went to Ranchi or from Ranchi to Haldia, or when you joined the MNC first time, you would not always have been like this. Over the last 6 years or 10 years, there must have been a process. How does one progress so rapidly from that point to this point? Were there coaches, mentors? Was it training? Was it your own desire? Was it self learning? What were the points of that so that some of our viewers can learn from it?
See, one thing is that you should have an aim in your life. Actually, what you want to do at least, if not a long term aim, you should have some short term aim actually in life. So if you have an aim, actually, eventually you'll end up creating a journey. Okay, this is the path I want to follow. For example, let's suppose I have gone to a college and I want to come first in my college. So what I need to do, I need to study actually given a syllabus, and that part this way I can study and then I come first in college. Similarly, actually, your career in IT actually you need to know what you are doing and what's your aim in life. So like I told you, I had the aim that I after some years maybe I want to start a venture on my own. Actually, I want to be start my own company. So what I need to do, how I need to learn, and all those things. So eventually, I followed a path actually. So I realized, by being in a multinational company, this is eventually going to take me a longer time. So I have to interact with really, good people who have done something of similar kind. And apart from that, you have to be really interactive with some of the people who have really done something in their life, like I told you, Roshan Wondekar, the CEO of this transcontinental time. So I've learned a lot from him. So by being in a positive environment, that's also very important thing. At times what happens, if you have aim but if you don't have good company around you, you might not even end up actually going to the way that you want to go. So that influence is also very necessary. And apart from that is, you have to be self motivated and focus on what you're doing. If you're not focusing on the things you're doing, or if you're not self motivated, every time the society, different reasons or different persons can't motivate you unless and until you have that self motivation inside you. If you have that self motivation, you can do it. This you have to do it always. You will do it actually. So these are the some of the things that I would tell actually the viewers that if you really want to do something. Yeah.
Well said, because the one you have said, one should have a clear goal of how they see themselves over time. Then they should execute towards it by actually working towards it, surrounding themselves by mentors and people who are better than them and you can learn of them. And
Yes.
then finally, uh, they're taking actionable steps to, show that progression and improvement in yourself.
Yes.
Those sound simple, but they're not easy to do. So
Absolutely.
So you spoke about having a goal, and obviously you're a young man with your whole life ahead of you. And deliberately, we've tried to catch people like yourself who are at that point where they have not yet realized their full potential. Like I said in the
Yes.
introduction, I don't quite enjoy interviewing them at the end because I get a romanticized, cleaned up version of the story. So at this stage, what do you see as your goal in the foreseeable future? Leave money aside. What is it that you would like to create? What is it that you would like to do? What is it that you would like to be remembered as, say, 10 years from now?
Yes, so one thing, like I told you, because I come from a really, poor background, from a very poor village actually. So I've seen poverty, in its extreme form actually in so many ways. So one thing which I would like to do is, to help poor people actually in my capacity. I mean, apart from this job and also, so this is the core thing, which satisfies me, and I'll in slow way actually in various ways. This is something which I'll keep doing, and this is my aim actually. Not in a very big geographical area, but I'll focus mostly on my village, and I'll try to do something for the really needy one in my own capacity. So for that only, see, these are all small steps that I'm taking. This will eventually take me to that direction actually. So
Thank
this
you,
is
Nikendra.
this.
It has been an absolute pleasure having you here. Young people in states like Bihar, UP, and virtually any state require young role models, not ones who are already the Salman Khan of their industry, but people who can talk to them about and mentor them about step to step progression in their life, the real practical actionable things, not some the imaginary stuff. So to that, what you have said is very, very relevant to them. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on the show. I wish you the very best, and I hope to be a part of your journey as you progress through life.
Thank you, Nalin. It was really nice to be here, and I'm privileged actually, like I said, to be here. And, thank you so much for
Thank you, and
inviting me. Thank
have
you.
a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Nalin. Good evening.